Good morning, world. I'm Steve Rao, the host of Pod TV's World Edition on Roku TV. And we are here today live from the All America city of Morrisville in North Carolina, the eighth largest state in the Union. And we're excited in North Carolina as the Carolina Hurricanes have now gone to 2-0 against the Boston Bruins. Congratulations, Coach Brindamore, John Waddell, who we're trying to bring on the show, and all of the Canes players. Today, before we get into global affairs and innovation and our discussion of a pandemic and how it's moving into an endemic, although numbers are starting to go up, I wanted to base my monologue today on a very special visit that we're having with the Secretary of North Carolina Technology, James Weaver. He is the state CIO. I'm wearing my Cisco hat and my All-America City shirt, which I will wear when I welcome him today. But today I wanted to just give you a few insights based on an op-ed I wrote on WRL TechWire called Making North Carolina a Smart State. On the show, we've had NC Riot. We've had people talk about the Internet of Things. And at the end of the day, I'm very proud of the work that Morrisville has done, our town. We have been a leader in smart cities at the national level, winning rewards from IDC, the Global Insights Smart City Awards. We also won the Clean Tech Corridor Award. But the point I want to make today is how Morrisville did this with smart cities. What is a smart city? How did they move so quickly from nothing to the bottom line, having and leveraging technology to enhance the quality of their residents? Well, just a real high level. What they did was they hired a consultant. They brought them in to look at all their departments. They had cross-departmental meetings, and they came up with a smart city plan. But a smart city is how you're using technology and the Internet of Things, your devices, to connect to the Internet and provide better services to the citizens. So the third leg of the journey was a quick win strategy, putting sensors, IoT devices on the park so you could monitor flood usage, facility usage, or when flooding happened in the parks. You could manage your traffic. You could manage on the roads. You could manage you can take a smart shuttle on demand to 15 different places in Morrisville through an app. You can manage energy efficiency of your buildings. And all of these things help the quality of life of the residents that you serve in your cities, wherever you're watching in the world. For the solar panel, we put solar array sensors on the solar panels in our fire station to help them with great stuff. Now, at the end of the day, what does this all mean? Why am I so excited? Well, first of all, the elephant in the room is broadband. We have $65 billion of broadband coming into the United States. Secretary Weaver tonight is going to be talking about North Carolina's plans to expand that broadband to rural areas as well. But the fact of the matter is this: the broadband can help us with remote education, workforce, streaming wonderful world-class TV shows like World Edition. But it also can be used to create jobs through smart cities. And that's my final point. Smart cities can create the jobs of the future. Artificial intelligence and machine learning will be required by many city planners as they have to use the data that they see, the data that they collect to make better decisions, to buy better products, to help their elected officials make better decisions. They're even going to be hiring experienced managers, engineers who actually survey citizens and residents of how their city can be more technology friendly. We used to think of urban planning as tractors and trailers and cranes, but now data is the new fuel of planning. It's the new fuel of the economy. And that's why I'm so excited. We're living in a data economy. I think we can make North Carolina a smart state. We can make it the smartest state in the union. But wherever you're listening to in the United States or around the world, you can be smart as well. Wouldn't it all be great to be smart, especially when we talk about politicians all the time on this show? Thank you for being with me for that quick monologue. We welcome Secretary Weaver to the show. He'll be coming in a few weeks, and let's get started. Today, we have with us Mark Lee. I think he's coming. Nick Paladiva, Chris Greco, and that was sort of an ad-lib, guys, based on an op-ed I wrote. Didn't really practice and rehearse as much as I usually do, but I think I got the message across. And we've got Sasha Starr and Shaquille Latimer. And that was just a quick digression from the hardball politics of the show that we get into. But I just wanted to share with you all, if you have ideas of where innovation plays into anyone watching the show or any of the panelists, please get out to me. But I think that it's exciting, um, of the potential for technology and new job creation. Can anyone guess how many devices are connected to the internet today?
About 5 billion.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah, about over almost what is it, 60 or 70% of the world literally is on the internet. In fact, when I did a study, when I actually did a paper on this about 2-3 years ago, it was astronomical. I did a mathematical computation of how many passwords and how many areas when you talk about capacity management. I had to give a presentation on it at an international conference. But yeah, I'll tell you, smart is great. I look, we wouldn't be able to do this without the smart aspect, right, Steve? But basically, what happens is that if you did a graph, and I actually did one, but I can't show it to you here. I don't have it with me. But basically, the graph goes like this: as convenience goes up, so does vulnerability, right? So
yes.
So what you have to do is when you do that infrastructure, you also have to parallel it with a very, very good security system.
Yeah, I didn't talk about cyber.
Work.
That's going to be next week. But cybersecurity.
Oh, good.
Real quickly, we'll go around the room and then we'll go right into the war. And I got to get ready to greet the secretary. But let's start with Sasha Starr. I just want to know, in your countries, are cities using smart technologies? Apps and things like that. Let's start with Canada. What's going on in Canada? Anything?
Yes, of course, they're using it. It's very popular. Toronto get really great choices of services that you can use. There's a Rogers network that covers almost everything, and cell phones and internet, and just name it, telephone lines. There are also TELUS communications. Bell Canada, of course, is there. So there's abundance of services, and it's good for competition because, for example, in Toronto you can choose which one to use. It's not like a mandatory service that in this area, for example, only one service is available. No, it's even in some rural areas, people have choice of which service to use. So I would say
great.
Toronto is doing quite well.
That's fantastic. And 21 billion. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Shaquille, anything going on in the big cities of Australia? We don't hear much about tech in Australia, but I'm assuming Australia is a very tech savvy nation, right?
Yeah. I'm not really in the tech space, Steve. So
okay.
So yeah, I'm not probably the wrong person to ask.
Okay, we like Mark Lee. Obviously Durham. So I think we understand where you stand on this, but I think nobody wants to be a dumb city. We only want to be smart cities, and I may write a book called "Smart Cities for Dummies."
Washington D.C. doesn't seem to have a problem with being a dumb city.
You know what's scary?
Well, I mean, there's some people that may say the same thing about parts of Texas as well. So we can definitely say something about some of the cities and all that. But definitely there is great conversations around technology, and definitely glad to see some people involved in it. And definitely am a fan of smart cities and how they can be used on everything from mass transit to workforce situations and all of that. I'm actually, as y'all know, over the last several weeks, been grading papers, and part of that is definitely using the technology that is out there and all of that, because a lot of us are working from home while we are grading the nation's youth, and in some cases, the world's youth as well. But there is this thing, and I know you've alluded to it before. I'd love to hear from our guests when they come back and everything about the digital divide, which doesn't always have to do with just strictly race, but it can also do around economics, and it can do around the kind of things that are going on. And I'm glad that Sasha mentioned it earlier in our rural communities, because not everybody in some of these rural communities has this great access that y'all are talking about. And yes, there are billions of people that are using this technology, but there are also pockets, and significant pockets of the world that don't necessarily have internet access. And then the opposite side of that, which definitely would love to hear from folks, and maybe even Chris has got some thoughts about this, is when people are so excited by the technology that they are rushing out and getting the latest and the greatest toy and everything.
Hey,
for
Mark,
people
you
and everything.
cannot say
Really
Russian.
quickly,
You said Russian.
get to
You
my
can't say
point I was
Russian.
trying to make and everything is that I was at a store not that long ago, and the young lady there was complaining that her 5-year-old wanted the latest iPhone 13 and everything. And I do sometimes think that we don't need to get all of those things to every youth that wants the latest iPhone 3 or the latest Oculus. And I will admit that my nephews do have the Oculus set, or at least one of them doesn't. But and they actually, both of them may have it for all I know and everything. But yeah, this technology is wonderful. Glad to have the technology. But, it's now good question of, does everybody need it, and do we need to be giving it to 5-year-olds?
Well, I'll tell you something even more basic, Mark. Don't name your kid Alexa. Don't name your kid Siri, and don't name your kid Echo. If you do that, every single time you yell their name, all of a sudden you're going to be turning on the stove, or you're going to be turning on whatever. You're going to be ordering 5 gross of whatever toilet paper from the. So you have to really be careful. Last night, my wife was saying something. We were sitting on the couch, and she goes, "Hey, do you want to watch this show or that show?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, maybe this show." All of a sudden, somebody came on her phone and said, "What are you guys talking about?" And she had accidentally activated her mic. So when she put her mic, it texted out to that last person, whatever it was, said, "Hey, I'd like to watch this show too," or whatever it was. I said, "My God, it's just a little inadvertent hit of the button."
It can be very inadvertent. I just had that happen yesterday. I actually dropped the phone accidentally, or one of the phones, and when I looked down, it had actually started this process. It did not complete it, but it had started the process of going into a video call. Fortunately, I was asleep, and fortunately, it did not activate. But that could have been very embarrassing if I had been in another kind of situation going on and everything along those lines. Fortunately,
or snoring.
it did not happen in that sense, but it could have been.
I think Nick, Mark, and myself had a bit of a scare about an hour and a half after the show yesterday, as we were discussing various things, and I had my post-air attire on, shall we say, and then all of a sudden something had sort of happened to our screen, and we did stop the broadcast, right? We're not still on air. These things happen.
I know it's scary.
I want to ask you a question about the thing that you've just mentioned about the 5-year-old, and Chris sort of saying, "Oh, why would somebody buy their 5-year-old?" Something. If parents want to buy their 5-year-old a new iPhone or whatever, that should be up to parents, shouldn't it? Or do you want to create
No, I think it should be the parent, and the parent was actually complaining, because the parent was like, "How did my 5-year-old even get the idea that they wanted a iPhone 13?" But it's that whole thing of the pressures of society and the pressures of advertising and all of that.
How does the 5-year-old get the idea that gender is a social construct? I don't know.
It's because the rich people are walking around with their cell phones intimidating the poor people. That's what's going on.
Look, guys.
Rich people can
that's what it is.
People cannot.
I've got
Let's get back
the
to the
Z
topic
Fold,
at hand.
True.
Let's get back to the topic at hand. I've only got about 15 minutes, but real quickly, let's get into the war. It turns out that, and first of all, I just want to say that I heard from a friend that was in the sales in a company that somebody in sales forgot to take their camera off and mute, and then started changing, getting ready for a shower. It was a very painful experience. He took off his shirt, took off his pants, and oh God. And then, but get this, he actually got terminated from his job on probation for indecent exposure. And but he was going to lose his job, but then he
showed too much of his IoT, huh?
But I mean, it's just crazy. So my lesson is, if you have to go to the bathroom, take the camera off. If you have to take a shower, take the camera off, and always put the thing on mute. And the final joke is, I spoke at a live event last week, and what I did was, I did this, like I did. And I go, I took the mute button off, and everyone started laughing. But real quickly, let's go to the war in Ukraine. So apparently, I'm going to start with Sasha Starr. On Monday, May 9th is Russia Day. So I'd like you to talk about Russia Day and what it meant, in terms of Nazi Germany. And but some people are scared that it's going to motivate Putin even more. It's also turning out that Ukrainians, that the United States intelligence has been used to kill Russian generals. And then I heard something on the news this morning about, I haven't been able to find it on the news wires, but I heard something about Russia allowing civilians to leave. But Sasha, let's start with you on our and oh, by the way, happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. Totally forgot. Happy Cinco de Mayo. But please, Sasha, where are we with the war?
There are a lot of mysteries about this May 9th. You call it Russia Day. First of all, the Second World War ended on May 8th, not 9th. But because the capitulation of Germany was happening very late during the day, around 11 o'clock in the evening, at that time, it was already 1 o'clock past midnight in Russia, and subsequently 9th of May. So Russia says that, no, it's not May 8th. It's May 9th, at least for us. So we are going to celebrate May 9th, not May 8th. That actually wasn't very smart decision, because at least if all countries are celebrating the same day, so Russia is a part of the anti-Hitler coalition, and they all ended war on the same day. No, Russia is saying differently. No, you defeated Hitler on 8th, we defeated on 9th. So now, so how come Germany had to capitulate twice, once for all the Western powers on the May 8th, and then capitulate to Russia on May 9th, or how to play it properly? Now, also don't forget that for the first year and a half, from September 39 to June, so almost 2 years, June 41, Russia was actually in coalition with Hitler. It was Hitler's really a country that supplied a lot of raw materials and a lot of food products and a lot of things that without that, I don't think Hitler would be able to start Second World War at all. However, things happen that history goes that some people believe that Stalin used that time to prepare attack on Germany, but Hitler just was ahead of him and derailed all his plans. And apparently, why I do think that this theory is right, because the way how easy Hitler could penetrate all the Russia's defenses and go so much ahead so quickly is definitely that Russia did not prepare to defend against Germany, but was rather had attacking formation, which was not very well suitable for defense. So this is why Hitler could overrun most of the European territory of Russia with incredible speed and incredible ease. However, now, if you remember, yes, I do, the same time in 2010, there was a big celebration because it was happened to be 65 years since a victory of Russia and coalition, of course. And there was a grandiose military parade in Moscow. They practiced for 2 weeks, all the details. And apparently there were a lot of Western leaders present. Not only that, there was not just Russian army participating in the parade, but US and England and France, and even Ukrainian forces were present there. Probably Kazakhstan and Belarus. I'm not so sure about that, but could be. Now it's 2010, and now it's 12 years later. There is no foreign leader, even Lukashenko from Belarus. No one will be present on this parade. No other armies will participate in this parade. It's needless to say. So Putin, in 12 years, he absolutely wasted the incredible political capital that he had just 12 years ago. He just wasted.
Yeah, I mean, let's go to Chris Greco. Sasha, thank you. Chris, what is your insight on where we are right now with the war? After what Sasha talked about Russia Day, do you think Putin's going to be more motivated? I'm confused. This thing's gone on for 10 weeks now. Is this going to be going on for a few years, or, you know?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that, well, first of all, this really, really concerns me about providing U.S. intelligence to take down Russian generals. This just bothers me. And I'll tell you why. It's because, in my intelligence career, we never gave intelligence to anybody to be able to do actionable intelligence, other than our Five Eyes partners, and then they could do what they will with it, but we provided it to basically those type individuals or countries that had a special agreement with us. I don't know. You start giving intelligence saying, look, hit this individual here. You may give away sources and methods. If you give away sources and methods, you're gonna destroy your intelligence capability for the future to be able to do things that you need to do as the United States. I get the weapons thing and I get those type of areas, but to tell somebody to hit this person, at actionable areas, or even ships or artillery, places like that. Now, prediction aspect. I would have predicted this baby would have been over the minute that the Ukrainians would have sunk the Moskva. I would have figured that the Russians would have said, "Hey, enough of this. We're just going to back off and see what happens." And they kind of did. They went to the eastern areas, but I just see Putin as saying, "Look, I'm in for a dollar, in for a penny, in for a dime, in for a dollar. I'm going to go the whole kibbutz here, and we're going to see what happens." And go from there.
Hey, Chris, isn't it interesting in everything? Really quickly, isn't it interesting that a supposedly undermanned army and all of that is what is being celebrated on this particular day with what is going on in Ukraine? Everybody was thinking that Russia was this massive power and all along that line, and that would be taking place, and it would be just a cakewalk for them to walk in, take over the country, bring it back into the alliance of the Soviet Union and everything. And we're actually, even though, and you just mentioned it earlier, Steve, celebrated a holiday earlier today that is actually the same thing, because if I remember correctly, Cinco de Mayo actually was marking the unlikely defeat of the French by the undermanned Mexican army. So that's actually what happened on May 5th, 1862. It's not an excuse to drink beer. It's not an excuse to have your latest Mexican dish. It is actually supposed to be that celebration that took place, and it is not Mexican Independence Day, even though some people will tell you that is what it is. But that is actually on September 15th. And it's not even the creation of the Mexican Revolution, which was actually on November 20th. So it does sound like history is repeating itself. And we're actually celebrating Cinco de Mayo on today. And a lot of folks will, like I said, probably be going out and getting some food and getting some drinks, maybe getting their favorite beverage or whatever in order to celebrate this holiday, whether they are of Hispanic heritage or not and everything. But ironically, they are actually celebrating something that is very similar to what is going on in the Ukraine some 160 years later and everything, because that took place in 1862 and this is 2022. So I just wondered if folks had any thoughts about the parallel between the real things that were happening in Cinco de Mayo times and all of that and what is going on in the Ukraine.
Well, you can make a holiday out of anything. I mean, it's interesting how literally you can make a holiday. You can make a holiday out of anything. You can make a holiday out of pizza. You can make a holiday out of whatever you want to make of it. It's like you say, Mark. It's what is the significance of the holiday? What does it signify? And I have a very very good friend, over 30-year friend, who's from Mexico. And she laughs every time Cinco de Mayo comes up. She just thinks it's the funniest holiday ever, because she says, we do not celebrate Cinco de Mayo in Mexico. We don't. There is no Cinco de Mayo in Mexico. If you say that in Mexico, you're laughed at, because it's an American-made holiday that somebody made up to, like you say, eat tacos and drink tequila. So the whole idea behind this, I mean, even, when we talk about holidays, we talk about the preponderance of an idea, like May the 9th. It used to be, and there used to be one in Soviet Union. They used to be called May Day, and that was a big
the celebration
holiday.
of workers' rights is actually on May 1st, and there are people that have actually were celebrating that about 4 days ago, and I've actually been part of activities in that field. I think the last one I was part of might have been 3 or 4 years ago, but I'd love to hear what Shaquille's thoughts about this, because I know he's brought up the whole state rights issue with the Confederates and everything, and that's actually the other thing that happened with Cinco de Mayo is that hold on a second. The other thing that happened with Cinco de Mayo and everything is that they say that it's not Napoleon. Hold on a second. My point is not Napoleon from actually helping the Confederates win the Civil War.
What did I?
That's the parallel I was going to make. If you let me finish, is that there are people that have said that particular victory, the 1862 victory, is what stopped Napoleon from actually going in and helping the Confederates win the Civil War. So that's where I was going with that.
The Confederates won the Civil War, did they?
No.
I said they did not win the Civil War, but they said that Napoleon probably would have been more actively supportive if he had not gone down in that defeat of May 5th, 1862, in that battle of Pueblo.
You can't make these little comments like, Shaquille talks about states' rights, and then lumber in there with that statement, such as the Confederates. I mean, come on now.
No, you talked about we've had conversations in the past on the show about states' rights and the role of states' rights in that original Civil War. So that's all I was bringing in. I was actually bringing in some facts to back what you have said in the past.
Yeah, well, I'm not standing up for the Confederate States. I'm just simply saying that as a matter of legal principle, I think the Supreme Court is absolutely ridiculous to tell the southern states that they cannot possibly secede without there being a formal part of them joining the union saying once you join, you can never leave, right? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of husbands and wives that would love to make sure their partners could never break the union that they'd entered into, but it doesn't work like that. So the Supreme Court says to the southern states that they can't secede, and then immediately allows West Virginia to secede from Virginia. This is the same sort of political nonsense throughout history that we still see today. So I'm not sure what further response you want to get from me in relation to Napoleon specifically, but
if you really want to get,
let's bring in this, okay? Did West Virginia secede from the United States of America, Shaquille? No. Okay, and that's what they were talking about.
They
just seceded from Virginia. So what?
That's not
from the United States of America.
You can't say that one place isn't allowed to secede because secession from something is just something that couldn't possibly happen, and then say immediately afterwards another place can.
It depends where you're succeeding from and to.
I mean, but Nick and Shaquille, isn't that part of the argument that people are having right now? Is that we are, whether it's around abortion, and I have heard us say that and before, or whether it's around cannabis. I actually was reading an article not that long ago where they were saying that they fully expect within, say, the next couple of years that the United States of America will actually be 3 states, and they've described it as being maybe the East Coast kind of parts of the United States, the West Coast kind of parts of the United States, and all of the middle. But they were very serious in the article I read that they could conceivably see the United States being the divided United States.
Read my book. Read my book.
Read my book. Read my book. Hey, wait! I just got
states that understates things. It's not. People think, for example, that California is this, heavy blue state. It's really not like that. I mean, you've got 45% of Californians, or around the 40% mark of Californians that vote red. The majority of the landmass in California votes red. And there's big sways all through these deep red states that there's a lot of people that are Democrats that vote blue. So it's not quite
it's just like North Carolina. I would say that the urban
it's just
city,
the way that majorities work in relation to how they vote, and it's also the inefficiency of the system that you guys have, like in California, where the person with the most votes gets all the electoral votes.
Which I think
I personally don't think that that's the way it should be done, but that's a matter for the state of California.
Exactly. I agree with you on that and everything, but it even comes down to like the state that I'm in and that Steve is in and Nick is in. We're considered a swing state, but I would say that most of the urban cities are very liberal and very much the Democratic strongholds, whether that's Durham, whether that's Asheville. I would even argue Charlotte, where Pat McCrory is from, even though that might be a little bit more moderate and things along those lines, and maybe even Raleigh being moderate. But then you go into the rural areas, and they are definitely some strong Republican holes, and that's part of the reason that North Carolina is a swing state and will probably, for a significant amount of time, be a swing state. But I don't know if Steve agrees with me on that.
Well, the reason it's going to be a swing
think
state
good
is
people,
because
right.
the people from New York City and Boston and all the other blue states are coming down here, and because they're coming down here, all of a sudden they're changing a very, very nice red state, unfortunately, a very nice red state into a purple blue state because they want more Walmarts and more Harris Teeters and more whatever else they want up. So they're building.
But Chris, haven't we been that way for a while?
developments.
Look at our governor's races over the last 20 years. We've had a flip-flopping between a Democratic and a Republican governor for pretty much all of my life that I can remember and everything.
And you know something, Mark? You're right. And you know what I love about North Carolina that I wish would happen in every single state of the union is you can have a Republican governor and a Democrat lieutenant governor and vice versa. I like that a lot. I think that ought to be presidential. I think you ought to be able to have a Republican or whatever it is, the one who wins, and then the second place winner, they get to be vice president. There should be no more of this. Oh, this is my running mate. That's bullcrap. Let's let the second place winner get in there as the vice president. And let me tell you something. All of a sudden,
so if you applied that federally, you would have seen Donald Trump with Hillary Clinton as the vice president. And
that's
if
right. You tell me that would have been exciting.
And this last week, you
hilarious.
Joe Biden with Vice President Trump.
That's
Oh
right.
my God!
That's
For
right.
somebody who doesn't live in the United States,
Hey,
I
listen,
reckon you guys should do that.
That is America, baby. That is, by the way, Chris, that is an absolutely great idea.
I love it.
Could you?
I love it.
You
That
talk
would be
about.
great.
You talk about entertainment.
Speaking
You talk about
of a great
entertainment.
idea, that would be amazing. But
I'll
speaking
send
of a
our
great
media
idea
rating
and
up
everything,
the
what are
charts.
people's thoughts? Because I'm here and I wonder what Sasha thinks
course
about
we
this,
get
because he's
along, baby.
definitely come out against him several times. I know that you said you voted for him several times, but it does sound, and I'm hearing this from several sources, both Republican and Democrats,
I'm not going to vote
that
for him again.
in the very near future, Trump will be declaring to run again in 2024. So what are folks' thoughts about this? Are we ready for the
I'm joining the
rematch,
Republican Party.
the Rumble in the Jungle
I am.
part 2?
I'm joining the Republican Party.
I'll vote for him if he's the primary candidate.
So I can vote
He's
for the
primary
Republican
guys, sorry.
candidate, not the
Okay.
Trump
I had to.
candidate.
I'm sorry.
So
my
you
camera
look
was
dressed
off,
up nice. I don't
I
know
just
what.
see a
Very
wardrobe
nice.
change.
This is an upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm embarrassed.
Camera
like,
was off.
You're
Yay!
like Tanya Banks or whatever, whatever her name is.
He's upgraded our
Hey,
image. That's
so
bad.
real quickly, before I take off, we will be. I'm going to come back tomorrow to talk about why we have Cinco de Mayo, because I didn't really research that. So I may open up my mind. Actually, I'll be on
I
Monday.
just did a little bit of that while you were gone.
Okay. So what did the meaning of Cinco de Mayo? What is it?
Cinco de
Mark-
Mayo was actually
Mark
the
knows all
celebration of
about
a
it.
victory in Mexico. It was actually not Independence Day, but it was a major victory over the French that took place on that particular day in 1862. A few years.
Mark got his degree in Cinco de Mayo. So
Okay,
he knows
great.
all about it.
Well, and so I think, and then the continued debate comes on about Roe v. Wade, protests going on in Raleigh. Not official yet, folks. We don't know what the court's going to do. And I think, it's just going to come down to, do we think that these court decisions should be leaked to the press and the public before the decisions are actually rendered, which is very concerning. And but hopefully,
the person who leaked, if they find the person who leaked it, then that person's legal career should be forever over.
I agree.
You don't do
Disbarred
something like that,
permanently.
regardless of what side of politics you're on.
You don't.
To impugn the reputation of the Supreme Court, one of the most hallowed and sacred.
quite embarrassing. Quite embarrassing.
Is disgraceful.
Yeah, you have to respect the legal scholars and acumen that they're bringing, and I think we're getting away from that. So I need to go and review a little bit the Constitution, and then finally we're going to bring them on the show. Trying to think if I left out anything else. I mean, inflation continues to rise, prices going up, Fed still looking at maybe raising interest rate a little bit more. The European Union did cut Russia off from oil, so that might help our prices. And I think that it's time for the United States possibly to break bread with Mohammed bin Salman, the head of Saudi Arabia, who's expected to be there 30 to 40 more years, and Iran as well. We have to rebuild relations with some of these countries so that we can start producing more oil and not being held hostage by Russia.
Why would you need to rebuild relationships with the Middle East when America's got more oil in America than they have in all of the Middle East?
Maybe you're right. Maybe we need.
It's like the UK has got this massive amount that they found somewhere in one of their seabeds.
We have the Balkan oil district, the Balkans.
Perhaps you spend too much time in Raleigh. I think the good Republicans of Mecklenburg County might be able to correct your ways there, Steve. I'm sure Chris will be quite pleased.
There we go. That's what
now, are we worried about some of these other parts of the world with inflation? Because it's not just the United States, because apparently the Bank of England has said there's some risk of inflation as well, because they had a hike in their interest rates to a 13-year high, and they've seen inflation hitting 10% in that part of the globe.
No, we don't really give a rat's rear about United Kingdom, Australia, Canada.
The UK's rates.
Make America great again. Forget about Australia. Forget about Canada. Forget about all these other
UK's rates, Mark, are high, and their inflation rates are high, not just because of the pandemic, but also because of the repercussions of Brexit. I think the UK is in a very, very powerful position. But unfortunately, the country is run by a bunch of morons who would give any sort of competition of moronic behavior. I think they'd give the American politicians a good run for their money, although you Americans, I think, still haven't won at this point.
By the way, speaking of which, and I think that you were going to at some point maybe even show us some of the things that are going on there, but definitely in terms of political stuff, but definitely it sounds like one of your homelands has made it into the news because of its role in this whole conflict, because apparently a judge in Fiji has ruled that the U.S. authorities can seize a Russian-owned super yacht, but they have put a hold on the order until at least Friday while defense lawyers mount a challenge. So the yacht Amity, worth some $325 million, had earlier been stopped from leaving the South Pacific nation because of its link to Russia. But definitely the question remains whether the two Russian oligarchs there really own the Amity, or whether it's just over there dealing with sanctions and all of that. But it sounds like your folks over there in one of the countries that you are associated with and everything has grabbed one of these super yachts, and they're saying, hey, y'all can have it. But you can't take it right away.
But my association's pretty tenuous there. That's like saying that Steve and I are both associated with India. Because, of what happened a couple of generations ago.
Hey, Shaquille, if they decide to give you the yacht, just say you're affiliated with it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Fijian if they give me the yacht.
Yeah, give me the yacht, baby.
You won't see me again.
You won't see the yacht again either.
I'll be there sitting on my yacht while I'm converted to left-wing politics, and I would be saying, yes, big government, we need more of it.
Yeah, you won't see that, Oh, you just heard this just in, by the way. Adolf Hitler is actually alive, living in Argentina, and he wants to correct the record. He said the invasion of Russia was to rid Russia of Nazis, and it wasn't a war, it was just a special operation. He doesn't understand why the Russians didn't lay down their arms and welcome him as a liberator. So Adolf Hitler, alive at one point.
Hold on a second. I've got a question for Nick. Is he over there hanging out with both Prince and Michael Jackson and Elvis? Because they are oftentimes around and live. So is he hanging out with
correct the record, please? It was not an invasion of
happy Cinco de Mayo
It was a liberation.
If you don't celebrate in other countries, have a tequila, have a taco. And today my event is called Tech Talk Tacos, right? Tech Talks and Tacos, which is cool. I think, and when I retire, I'm going to have Monday martinis, tequila Tuesdays, wine down Wednesdays, Tech Talk Thursdays, and French fry Fridays.
I think you might need to come to Australia. We drink like that over here, buddy.
What?
You might need to come to Australia because we're the ones that drink like that.
That's true, they do.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'll see you on possibly Monday. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Dressed
tomorrow.
up like that, eh?
Yeah, I got to go to a brunch in
Yeah.
March.
You're embarrassing the rest of us, being all smart dressed after Smart City.
Very nice. There you go.
But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay. That's
I
okay.
hope
Tie-
people don't read
That's an
into me
upgrade.
I'm wearing a red tie.
I like
because
it.
Power.
The organization
I like
is
it.
Brian Hamilton Foundation, and the T-shirt is red and blue. So I've got a blue blazer that matches the T-shirt,
right.
the white and the red.
That
But
seems
I
right.
just know
I know that we
that
get
Democrats
published
gonna
to
come
Al
up to-
Jazeera. Nick has made that very clear. So I was
You
actually
could almost pass as a Republican, Steve.
Hey,
Oh!
Nick. Hey, Nick. I know that we
Thank you.
go to Al Jazeera, and I was actually reading one of their articles. So I was curious what people's thoughts are, because apparently, speaking of other parts of the world and everything, there is some pro Irish reunification people and their nationalist party. Speaking of people that have those kind of thoughts and everything, that look like they could be heading toward victory. So this could be the first time in the troubled history of Northern Ireland. So are we going to see a unified Ireland finally and everything? Because there is like some folks that want to unify another part of the world that's been embattled for decades and centuries and everything. So are we actually going to see this taking place? Does anybody have any thoughts? Because apparently the pro reunification people are winning over there in Ireland. And I know that that's been another conflict zone that's been out there forever. So what are folks' thoughts about Ireland possibly being unified finally?
Well, the only country, really seriously, that has ever been unified in my time has been Vietnam, and the North and South Vietnam, they reunified, and all of a sudden they are trade partners. They do a lot of different fabric aspects, all these different types of things. I don't count East and West Germany only because of the fact that East and West Germany, that was there was a wall there, and they basically said, okay, just checkpoint Charlie went nuts and everybody went through it. But the East could see that the West was doing very, very well. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, we're going to form up. The North and South Vietnamese, it was a little bit different. North Vietnam was not doing all that badly. I mean, they were doing okay. And South Vietnam, they just said, we're going to go in there and invade them. And they did. So those are the only two countries that I know of that have literally reunified or unified as a result of war.
And that's because, and the reason why they got in all these wars is that's because rich people are strangling the poor people.
But speaking of rich people strangling
show the
poor
book, Nick.
people,
Okay, that happened in Russia.
Along those same lines, apparently there's a country out there that's got a crazy, and I mean a crazy inflation rate. Because I did not know until I was just looking at this article and everything that Turkey's inflation rate is almost 70%. How the heck do you have an inflation rate of 70%?
The Turkish interest rates have been very high to make up for that for a very long time. So that's not too big an issue.
Yeah. Well, what
it becomes an issue when you've got low interest rates, high inflation, and and an economy which by all accounts isn't performing too well, and a GDP that's contracting. Then you've got some problems.
You mean like ours?
I'm not too concerned about Turkey.
What about the United States? Our GDP went down 1.4%, and our inflation went up 8.5%. Are you concerned about the United States, Shaquille? Because we don't really give a rat's rear about you, so I'm just curious if you care about us.
Well, I'm glad I don't live there. Let's say that.
Okay.
Speaking of people that are
as much as I love your
going on and everything, there is an African country, and this is a great quote and everything, but Nigeria's president Muhammadu Buhari has thanked the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for his visit to the country, saying that he is grateful the West African nation hasn't been forgotten amid the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Guterres, who visited in Nigeria for the first time, as Secretary General, that he has traveled to Nigeria to express his solidarity with victims of terrorism, according to a statement from his office. So it sounds like there are other parts of the world that are also dealing with terrorism, and the Nigerian leader is just glad that they wasn't forgotten. So the Nigerian leader said he had been concerned that the war in the Ukraine could distract the world's attention to the war against terror. But he said that Guterres' visit showed that the world has not forgotten us, according to a statement released yesterday from Buhari's special advisor, Femi Adesina.
Did you see the footage? The footage shows Guterres going in there, and these people, and they say, and the background narrative says the people were awfully confused as to who he was. They had no idea who he was and what he was talking about, half the stuff. And then he planted a mango tree and went back to the UN. I mean, nobody even knew why. Like you could see they were kind of sitting there, I think we should be happy he's here, but we're not sure. And Mark, it gets to the point where, you're out there saying, yeah, we support you, Burkina Faso, and we support you, Mali, and we support you, Nigeria. And now we're going to go back to our comfort area in Europe, or we're going to go back to our comfort area in the United States, or we're going to go back to comfort area in Australia. Good luck to you. See you later. And that's going to be it. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was there, Mark. I was there.
Apparently he went to Nigeria. He also visited Senegal and Nigeria while he was there as well. And apparently the visit came 11 years after the bombing of a UN building at the Nigerian capital. And definitely during the visit to Senegal, he highlighted the impact of the war in Ukraine on the economies of the developing countries. But then, like you said, he went back to his country and was like, hey, this is a good visit. I'm glad I had my little visit, and now I'm going back, and the heck with y'all.
I'd like to know, and this is I'm not busting on Obama because every president does it, but I'd like to know what Obama's doing with Kenya. He went to Kenya, he made a big deal out of that, gave some money to him. What's happened to that school? What's happened to this situation? Oprah Winfrey has done more for some African nations than Obama ever did. Oprah Winfrey, celebrity, has gone over there, has put women's schools up and did whatever. I mean, this guy Obama, I'll tell you, I know I can't share it with you because it's classified, but basically I know of things this guy did. Sorry. I know of things this guy did. Sorry. I can't share it with you, but I know of things that this guy did that if I told you, you'd sit there and go, oh my God. And it's factual.
I know some people that were actually Obama supporters and voted for Obama, but they were also not the biggest fans of his drone attacks and other things along those lines.
Mark, not so fast, Chris. Okay, you got a big net worth disparity. We have I mean, look at Oprah. She's worth $3 billion or more.
She must be a white supremacist.
Mark, lucky to have
how is this billionaire black woman who lives in a predominantly white area? How is she not sharing all of her wealth with everybody, Mark? Do you think that
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry.
People have asked why some of the people are not doing more like LeBron, because LeBron has actually done some things in terms of schools and other stuff, and there are people that complain about what people like Obama and maybe even some cases definitely Oprah and Michael Jordan are not doing in their communities and everything. But I did want to just really quickly, because hold on a second.
A paltry millionaire. You're talking Oprah's a multi-billionaire. There's a big difference between a multi-billionaire, that person who's just got like 30 million. He's busted. So of course he's not going to donate as much. What do you expect? It's because of the disparity of wealth that Reagan created back in the 80s that allows people like
you don't Oprah to have question for y'all and one of our other favorite topics before we get ready to wrap up and everything, but one of our other favorite topics is oftentimes COVID. What the heck is Anthony Fauci doing, criticizing what the heck the Chinese are doing on their country and all of that? But apparently he has gotten upset, and he is, because there has been a spike in China and everything, and he's come out there recently and had this whole statement and everything, because he said that lockdowns don't work and everything. So he said on a recent show that lockdowns must be used to prepare the population, to prepare the future spread of infections, and doing a lockdown and nothing else is a strategy that doesn't work. So he's saying that the whole strategy of just doing a lockdown and nothing else doesn't work. Therefore, I'm going to criticize y'all, even though y'all are in China and y'all probably need to be handling your own business and everything. But what is y'all's thoughts about how he wants to not just put the thoughts here, but also wants to tell China what to do?
Fauci should keep his mouth shut. He didn't do a great job. He screwed this thing up along with the rest of the U.S. government and Trump and their whole bunch of crazies. So the thing is, he has no business telling.
It became so much better under Biden in the US.
He has, and it's not any better under Biden.
Such a massive improvement. In fact, Biden handled it so well that with a vaccine, the death rate went up. That's how well Biden handled it.
Yeah, that's because you got all these crazies in America that go, well, I don't want to be told what to do.
Like
don't wear a mask.
I want Biden
got individual rights, man.
And all the other Democrats that said they weren't going to take that vaccine when Trump was in power.
Hey, and this actually comes back to, I want to come back to some figures that are interesting. Chris, you're going to love these figures because apparently China has 1.4 billion people, and apparently 80% of the people are fully vaccinated. and half have received booster shots, and the virus is continuing to spread. So I don't know what's going on over there in China because, like I said, they have said, and I don't know how accurate their reports are, but they've said that they have vaccinated 80% of their 1.4 billion people.
Then
Well,
here's the
I'm going to
It's
tell you.
my body,
Right.
my choice only applies if it's somebody who doesn't want to take something that Democrats want you to take. If Democrats want you to take it, then it's not your body anymore. Because you might remember what Joe Biden said about abortion back in the 70s and 80s. What he said was, I don't believe that a woman should have the right to have to be able to choose what happens to her body. That's what he said. That's really the real Democrats' position. And that's the reason why you always hear Democrats whinging about Roe v. Wade, but you never hear a peep out of them in relation to Buck v. Bell. That's why. Democrats are hypocrites.
Well, it's interesting.
What's
You
wrong
know,
with this
well,
conclusion?
well, it's interesting.
Well,
that-
why, Nick? Why isn't there the same level of hysteria that Buck v. Bell hasn't been overturned by the Supreme
Because no one
Court?
gives a rat's rear about that case.
Exactly.
We
especially
we
when
give
it's
a rat's
That
rear
is
about
the
Roe v.
Roe
Wade.
v.
Claim to
Wade
stand
is
up for the
actually always in
downtrodden.
the news and everything. And a lot of people don't even know, and I told y'all yesterday, I didn't learn until you told me yet what it was yesterday, what that case is and everything, because a lot of people, it's not as much in the news cycle of conversation and everything. So that is part of the issue, is that if it's not in the line of sight of people, then it's not going to raise those kinds
It's not in the line
of
of sight of people, Mark, because your media doesn't focus on it. You don't need some dickhead from Australia to tell you about US constitutional law, right, and say this is a problem, okay? So I've been in your country for like less than 5 months in my entire life, although I've traveled all over the place. I'm not like some sort of expert on US law that I know more about the laws and the civil rights of your country than people in America do. This is terrible. Where's Nick gone? He's fallen off his chair.
and that's part of the conversation that is oftentimes brought up on this network, is the state of education and some of the things that are out there. And I do agree with a lot of folks on this network that civics and other things need to be taught more of. And I've said several times, I was a big fan, and I can't remember whether it was on PBS or regular TV, when we were watching Schoolhouse Rocks, which actually oftentimes would talk about basic facts and all of that around what makes a bill and things of that nature. And I don't even know if kids see that anymore, because I haven't really been watching that much other network TV to see if it appears like it used to do back in, say, the 80s and the 90s and some of the other time frames and everything. But coming back to Fauci, he is also saying that a strict lockdown in the US or Europe would be very surprising, because he doesn't anticipate an explosive pandemic outbreak in those areas again. So he's pretty much said, we're done in the US and Europe. Everything's good. Just go get your shot and get your booster. And while you're at it, go get that pill, because there's a pill that apparently can help with COVID as well, that is out there now, even though I think there have been some reports about it having some problems, and we'll just see how that plays out. But eventually, you'll just be able to go get your pill at the pharmaceutical company, and all will be well. What are y'all thoughts, particularly you, Chris?
Well, okay, so let's go back and talk about China for a second. So I took a look at the data on China when they were originally going through the pandemic, right? And all of a sudden, they got about to about 93,000 people and stopped. It just was, there was no more than 93,000 people that had COVID. And it was like, we were like going up and craziness and everything else. Nope. China hit the plateau at 93,000. Now, right from there, I thought, well, that's a lie. That's not just a lie. That's a damn lie. It's not, there's statistics, lies, and damn lies, or lies, damn lies, statistics. This thing was a damn lie. And it just went, ours kept going up there. Nope. They were straight as an arrow. Like, we're in the plateau. So that China's not reporting what they're supposed to be reporting. They're locking down people. They're shooting people. I'm sure they're shooting. I have no evidence to do that other than my opinion. But I'm telling you, a person comes out and they're not supposed to be there, they're going to shoot them. Hey, don't do that anymore. China is they sit back and they wear their suits, and Xi Jinping goes around and talks about economics and everything else. But let me tell you something. These people are really, really smart, deceitfully smart. I mean, they're not doing the Putin, right? They're not doing like, we're going to go in and invade things. They're being nicey, and
They tried the Putin, Chris. They tried the Putin when they had that whole Tiananmen Square thing. It didn't work. So I'm convinced that they're not going to do that.
It worked.
Tiananmen Square.
Mark, it worked. Tiananmen Square. Let me ask you a question. Do they still have annual protests at Tiananmen Square? Do they still go out there and actually have protests? There's no protest in Tiananmen Square. Let me tell you something. They put that down. They let them go along, and all of a sudden they ran them over with tanks. They shut off the cameras and they killed them. And they're autocratic. They're just like Putin. But again, they're wearing their suits and they're being nicey and smiling and, oh yeah, we're economics. And they're going in and they're taking over infrastructure. Ask Shaquille. They're going over and they're taking infrastructure. They're taking over infrastructure here, there. Huawei's in there. They're taking over Africa. I mean, Mark, they're doing immense amount of development in Africa.
No, they
Immense.
own Australia. They just bought it.
They're not just
They
taking
just bought
over,
Australia.
they're actually
I saw that.
building and funding the infrastructure. And you know what's not part of the Belt and Road Initiative when they're building infrastructure all over the world? CRT, right? The Chinese aren't going into Africa and saying, hey, let's teach your children that gender is a social construct. No. The
No, but
Chinese
they
are
are
going in
probably
and saying,
teaching
let's
them, but they
build
are
a
probably
port
teaching
so
them
that
that
we can
Marxism
trade
is the
with
way
you.
to go.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Let's build a train line so that our goods can reach your cities and that your goods can reach ours. That's what they do. That's what they consider to be
I
infrastructure.
told you they bought Australia.
The Chinese don't go in there and start building, race-based childcare centers. So you've got universal pre-K and things like that. That's not what the Chinese do. Funny about that distinction of infrastructure. Maybe their understanding of infrastructure is a little bit different.
They own the country of Australia, by the way. I saw that they made a recent purchase. They decided to buy the whole island. It was on sale. Most of it was desert anyway.
Wait a minute, Nick. How can
Except
they
for-
buy? Hold on a
except
second,
for
Nick.
Campbelltown.
Nick, hold on a second. How can they buy
They don't
the
have
island
Campbelltown.
of Australia when you had already said on this network and you had promised that you were going to buy it before anybody else bought it? So how did you allow the Chinese to come in and buy it first? Because
Frankly,
several
Mark,
times that you were going to buy it, and I've been holding you to that.
I would, but it's overpriced. I mean, I did a look at it, and all it is a bunch of desert land. So somebody else went and bought it, which was China. So China owns really Australia. So you have to be very careful what you say against China, because otherwise you'll get Chinese retribution.
There's no hyphenation in China. You don't have like China this, blah, 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 China, blah, 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 China. All Chinese. Blah, 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 that's it.
That's right.
You're
And
Chinese,
they have 1.6 billion people, and to keep them in line, you have Xi Jinping. He keeps them all in line. So, if you have to run over a couple of them because they're getting out of line, so what? I mean, the thing is, they need to get back in line. How is he going to manage?
They're taking over like a lot of the various parts of society, because I know that there was a time that
but they're happy.
K-pop was very popular in terms of like Korean pop music, and I understand that there might even be another form that's like C-pop or something like that. But it's basically music that is popular and that's coming from China, whether that's both mainland or Taiwan and everything. So we are seeing that a lot of Chinese folks are coming in and using their powers and everything, and all along those lines. And I know we're getting wrapped up and everything, but I just recently learned, because I've been following sports and everything, and I want to hear Shaquille talks about this maybe on tomorrow, but I knew that the
I'm not going to be
Washington
here tomorrow,
Redskins
so
or on
just for the
Monday and
audience.
everything. I did know that the Washington Redskins were now the Commanders. I did not realize until I was talking to some friends and seeing it online that the Cleveland Indians are no longer the Indians. They are now the Guardians. So apparently it's like some statue over there. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, so we're going to change all the names to come back to your points that you love to bring up to be politically correct. So any name that's got an Indian.
Yeah, I'm sure that's made a lot of people feel so much better. I'm probably not going to be here tomorrow. For those people that are still interested in that big dog race that I won back in 2020, it didn't go ahead in 2021 because of the pandemic. It is actually being held this Saturday. So for those of you that are able to watch it, the 2021 MDC $1 Million Chase we've run this Saturday night. I'm not in it, unfortunately, this time round, but there'll be another one in October, which I hope to be in.
Well, we hope to see you in that one. I will actually, because I am a fan, ironically, even though I've never been it, of the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown. So at some point during this weekend, I'll be trying to watch and see who wins that famous horse race. I never actually.
Well, Australian racing, not at this time of the year, but Australian racing is a lot more fun, a lot more profitable, and a lot better than American racing. Just like most of our sports.
So we have learned, Chris, that it is much better and all of that. So I guess we have to go to Australia and watch
We're
that.
going to have to
and
argue
everything.
that one. I have to come back on that one. This sport's better than our sports.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're out of time.
I'm sorry. We're at the hour, Nick.
we're at the hour, and we'll just have to have that argument on a later time as to whose sports are better, even though I'm really feeling down for my 76ers coach under Doc Rivers because they're down 0-2. So I don't think that they got a good chance of coming back. But miracles have happened before. So I'll keep rooting for that miracle. But right now, let's get on out of here.